Scott Gecas joins us now. He's with Walsh Trading at the edge of the trading floor in Chicago. Did you happen to notice this morning, no export sales announced once again for the overnight? So that's beginning to be a little bit of a disturbing trend to some traders.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why you're seeing a little bit of downside pressure. Just all across the board, you're seeing near record to at record short positions for the managed money, the funds. And that is definitely playing a factor in a little bit more movement. You're going to see a little bit more downside movement with those open interest to the downside a little bit more. It needs to be noted that if for the corn market, in the June options, 890, 920 call spread traded about 2,300 times. Now, yesterday I was asked, how is the option volume as far as the funds go? You know, yesterday there was hardly any option volume at all. Today, it's option volume exploded in the soybean market as well as the corn market. In the corn market just alone, we had open interest in the 365 line of about 1,500 coming into this morning. Over 10,000 contracts traded as I was walking up today. So that's significant. You're seeing a little bit more position movement. Maybe this is signaling some type of bottom. There are reports coming out saying that this is near to bottom, that it's a good place to get a little bit long, but all that is yet to be seen. We still have to wait for a little bit more news to come out.
All right. A lot of talk about the harvest in Brazil wrapping up in the soybean harvest. What is it, 92, 93% done already at this point? So they are garnering most of the export business, but how much is left to be sold out of there?
Well, that's the other thing. Now, China also is starting to buy from Brazil again. Instead of committing to the U.S. soybeans, they're going out and they're buying the Brazilian soybeans. That's another reason why you're seeing a little bit more expected downward pressure in the U.S. market today.
All right. Scott, we'll come back and take a look at our cattle and hog market activity as well in just a moment. Our guest, Scott Gecas, will be back after these messages. We are talking about the livestock markets with Scott Gecas. Cattle market has a hard time deciding which way it wants to go, but so far it's hanging on to that uptrend line as far as I can tell here on the charts.
Yeah, and that's it's really surprising with that. With the report that came out with really bearish news last week, we still have record net long positions. That's definitely holding up. Demand is a little bit stronger than expected at this time of the year usually. The cold storage report out did lend a little bit of support into it, but overall it's been a very tight range, about 122.5 to 120. You know, to make a decision one way or the other, we got to wait until it breaks out of that range.
Okay, now when you take a look at the options values, we were talking about them on the grain side. Are they just cost prohibitive here on the livestock side, especially on the hogs, or how do you go about it?
Well, that's interesting that when you said there's no lack of volatility when you're looking at the hog market, you know, so, and that is definitely true. The implied volatility right now is only about 7 points higher than the 20-day implied volatility. If we look back about a week and a half to 2 weeks, that number was almost 20 points different. So we had a big volatility crush coming in between the holiday weekend and the last few days. You know, that 7 point difference is really not that expected, and there's all kinds of rumors swirling around, so I'm actually shocked that that volatility level is not even a little bit higher where it should be.
And you were talking earlier about, at least on the grain side back then when we were discussing before the break, you said that the volume had really picked up. We won't know what that means, though, until tomorrow, right, when you finally get some new numbers on what the open interest would be there?
Yeah, when you're looking at the open interest numbers change on a daily basis. They don't change interday. So when I talk about a big option block going up, we don't know if it's being bought or sold. We have to wait until those open interest numbers come out in the morning.
Okay, very good. And thanks for pointing that out. Great stuff. Scott Gecas of Walsh Trading in Chicago, and we'll invite Scott back to talk on the evening news tonight as well.